A Progressive Liberal Party member of parliament challenges government to make gambling legal for Bahamians.
Bahamians have a major economic stake in that modernization.
Coconut Grove business owners taking their road gripes all the way to the Privy Council. A man shot and killed near his Pinewood Gardens home. What the Prime Minister has to say about public health care and national health insurance, and a push to save lives through road safety. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and your MB12 starts right now. Thanks for joining us. Since the government's controversial gaming bill was tabled in the House of Assembly several weeks ago, it has been criticized for its discriminatory provisions. Today, PLP MP and Gaming Board Chairman Dr. Andrew Rollins spoke out against the bill and said it is time for the government to find the political will to make gambling legal for Bahamians. Tanika Thompson reports.
Believe in Bahamians. That's the campaign slogan that resonated with voters and helped the Progressive Liberal Party win the 2012 general election. But PLP MP and Gaming Board Chairman Dr. Andrew Rollins said the words need to be seen as more than a campaign slogan and be backed up with action.
We have to get away from this public policy that appears to give priority to the interests of the foreign investor while leaving Bahamians behind. I don't believe that this government or any government should countenance the modernization of any industry for future growth while not ensuring that Bahamians are an integral part of that future. How can you say that you are bringing before the House legislation that is going to not only make our country a leader in the gaming industry, if not globally, at least in this region, that is going to result in increased profits for those casino operators, increased tax revenues for the government, and not also ensure that Bahamians have a major economic stake in that modernization.
The gaming bill was tabled in the House of Assembly last month. The legislation would allow casinos to offer mobile and internet gaming while preventing web shops from legally doing so, and maintains the status quo which prevents Bahamians from gambling legally. Rollins said the legislation in its current form gives the impression that the government does not have the interests of Bahamians as a priority.
And so I believe that when we say we believe in Bahamians, it has to be more than a convenient political slogan. When you're in opposition, you have the luxury of being elected on a promise or on promise. However, when you become the government, you are judged by your actions.
Rollins said that he expects his comments to garner backlash from some members of the Progressive Liberal Party. However, he said that he was elected to Parliament not to keep a seat warm, but to fight for the interests of its constituents and the Bahamian people. Rollins also urged the government to tax existing web shops as a way to boost its sluggish revenue. Rollins said this would allow the government to roll out value-added tax over a period of 3 years at a lower rate. The government plans to introduce the tax at a rate of 15% on July 1st, 2014.
Instead of taxing Bahamian businesses and consumers at a rate of 15%, we could reduce that to 5%. It stands to reason that while Bahamians may at the moment be kicking and screaming in opposition to this idea of value-added tax, that it would be found to be more palatable by them, more manageable by them, if it's a reduced rate.
Rollins said the public has legitimate fears about being overtaxed. On the issue of the gaming bill, Rollins said because the question of legalizing gambling for Bahamians is such a controversial one, he doubts the matter will be dealt with later in the PLP's term if it is not addressed now. While it's unclear when the debate on that legislation will begin, Rollins said he hopes he will be persuasive enough to convince the government to amend the legislation and remove the discriminatory elements. Reporting for NB12, I'm Tanika Thompson.
Well, noise over controversial Roadworks has faded, but one group's fight to have changes made to Blue Hill Road and Market Street reversed continues. The Coconut Grove Business League is now taking its legal battle over road changes to the Privy Council after its application was approved this morning. This as businesses in that area reportedly continue to suffer. Vonique Toot reports.
Hope has been restored for dozens of business owners who claim their profits plummeted following roadworks in an over-the-hill community. Members of the Coconut Grove Business League breathed a sigh of relief this morning after their application to appeal to the Privy Council was granted by Court of Appeal President Anita Allen.
And so the next step then is to get our papers in order to have the issues argued before the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council.
This case is hope. This case is hope that we can still do it. And I think that we're confident that we're going to win.
This latest move comes nearly 2 years after the Coconut Grove Business League secured a Supreme Court victory against the government, only for that decision to be overturned by the Court of Appeal. The group, which is made up of about 50 businesses, is seeking damages and to have Blue Hill Road and Market Street returned to two-way thoroughfares.
Man, look here. We need this road changed back. My business is Melissa Says Fashions, and I also have property that I bought on Blue Hill Road that I still meet bank payments for every month, and the location is now dead.
Entrepreneurs have argued that when the road's construction changed, so did their customers' shopping and travel patterns, drastically impacting their businesses. They fought to adjust to the controversial changes, but the struggle reportedly continues. Business League President Arnold Hasty says while business owners were discouraged by the seemingly drawn-out process, they are hopeful that changes would not only be reversed, but those people who lost their businesses would be compensated.
The road changing back won't help a fellow who is out of business or who's been impacted so much that he really can't get back. He needs restitution.
It was never really about damages or monies. They would have been satisfied just to have been not only consulted more thoroughly than they were, but to have the roads or have the ear of the person, the decision makers.
Business owners say they will fight tooth and nail to have their voices heard and reclaim what they've lost. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
A man was shot and killed in Pinewood in the early hours of this morning after he was chased by two armed men. Police say he was confirmed dead at the scene by EMS after suffering gunshot wounds to the upper body. Dana Smith reports.
Police are investigating yet another homicide in the capital. They say a man was shot outside his home this morning before he collapsed in a neighbor's yard.
Sometime around 6:30 a.m., police received reports of male being shot in the Pigeon Plum Street area. Officers responded to the scene where they met a male lying in the yard here just behind me, suffering from apparent gunshot wounds about the body.
Rolls said the victim had come out of his home and was in the yard of his Bamboo Street residence when he was approached by a gunman who had exited a nearby parked car. The gunman and an accomplice then pursued the victim, firing shots before the victim collapsed and died at a nearby home on Pigeon Plum Street.
The male exited his home to go into the yard for some reason when persons who apparently were parked nearby exited we believe to be a charcoal Suzuki Jeep. One of the occupants pursued the male and began discharging shots at him as he ran. And the second male got out and continued with that pursuit until he collapsed, where where we found him here a short while ago.
Family members at the scene identified the victim as 29-year-old Lamar Roberts, a father to 2 young boys and a stepdaughter. Although they did not want to appear on camera, family members described Roberts as full of life. Amid reports that Roberts was scheduled to appear in court this afternoon, official court documents confirmed his scheduled appearance before Supreme Court Justice Bernard Turner on an armed robbery charge stemming from an incident in 2010. However, this morning, Roll said he could not confirm any court appearance as police were still in the beginning stages of their investigation.
And we're treating this as a homicide, and we will investigate and try to find the persons responsible for doing this.
Police say they have no leads at this time and are appealing to members of the public to come forward with information. Reporting for MB12, I'm Dana Smith.
Well, the government is moving ahead with its plan to implement a national health insurance plan, in part because of the large amount of money the government is currently spending for unions and other Bahamians on health care. In a recent interview, Prime Minister Perry Christie confirmed the government contributes nearly $100 million per year in this regard, leaving the government to question if a national health insurance plan would be more effective.
When you look at the amount of money that the government is directly spending, with the fact that the government has to spend on the hospital and healthcare systems throughout the Bahamas, the question must be asked, when one adds up the total amount, how near are we to the cost of universal health care, national health insurance? Because more unions are asking for coverage. Unions are asking to broaden the coverage on persons who they feel should be included in it. And it's becoming a huge, impactful cost for the government.
It was with this in mind, he said, that the government decided to move ahead to investigate costs associated with implementing a national health insurance plan. Christie says it was decided the plan would be based on the Canadian model after lengthy consideration and advice from consultants, including the Pan American Health Organization and a firm from Costa Rica.
It gives everyone, the providers, the doctors, the patients, the country in terms of costing, an opportunity to have an effective system where you are able to have a national integrated approach to health care. And the fact that we are in our island nation, right, makes it even much more challenging for us. And so the advice I got is that when one looks at what the system in Canada provides with slight adaptations, we are able to have an effective system here.
Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez has previously said the government expects to know the cost of implementing national health insurance this month. The former Christie administration had indicated NHI would cost an estimated $235 million annually. And Bahamas Electricity Corporation officials are still unsure of exactly what caused an island-wide blackout this morning. The outage, which impacted BEC's generation, transmission, and distribution networks, struck around 8:30 a.m. Executive Chairman Leslie Miller says one of the main lines between Clifton and Big Pond tripped, sending all traffic to the Blue Hills plant, which also tripped. He says technicians isolated that line and are still trying to determine where the fault took place on the line. The corporation apologized for the unexpected disruption in service. BEC began restoring supply to customers at 9 a.m. and according to officials, full restoration was achieved around 11:30.